Joining me now, James Bezan, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Defence. Jack Harris is the NDP Defence Critic, and Joyce Murray is the Liberal Defence Critic. Good to see you all in studio too. That's fun. James Bezan, let's start with you. Do we have any more details about how this unfolded? How close to the front lines we were? Whether we had gone about the plan that was pre-established with the Kurds, or whether something had changed that would have led them to be suspicious or worried?
Well, I think it's been reported already that the Canadian forces, the special operation members of the four of them, were operating within the mandate that was given to them as advise, assist, and train, and that the protocol was well established, that they'd already cleared 2 checkpoints before going up to the observation post, that the signals had been agreed upon and were used appropriately, as they approached the observation post, which was 200 meters behind the forward line of operation of the Kurdish Peshmerga and over 2 kilometers away from where the ISIL fighters were located. They unfortunately were mistaken identity and were fired upon and resulted in the tragedy of the shooting and death of Sergeant Doteron. And of course I want to express my condolences along with all parliamentarians to his family, his friends, and his comrades.
And was this a place they had been to before? This was somewhere where they went regularly and never had any trouble?
This was a place that they'd been at only earlier that afternoon, that upon leaving had already discussed their return, including the appropriate signals and protocols on returning to the post that evening.
So I mean, obviously it's a bit strange, and we're all trying to make sense of it, particularly given that the Kurdish side of this story seems to be suggesting that we did something wrong, that we spoke the wrong language, that we didn't give the right notice. What does that mean then going forward if we're having this kind of conflict in how it unfolded between people that we are supposed to be working with? So
personally, I really have trouble buying into what the Kurdish Peshmerga spokespeople have been saying. You know, we have these very highly skilled and highly trained Special Operation Force members who are the elite among the Canadian military, who are over there helping these militia in the Kurdish Peshmerga and train them. And so, you know, this unfortunate incident occurred. I do appreciate that today the Prime Minister of Iraq actually called Prime Minister Harper and related his condolences and a speedy recovery to the 3 that are wounded and receiving medical attention now.
Okay, let's get into your interpretation of things and what troubles you, or what you think is of a broader concern here for Canadian forces.
Well, first of all, I think we have to express our sincere shock and sadness about the death of Corporal Doiron, and our hearts are out to him and his family, and the 3 that are wounded. And we could have had 4 people killed in that incident on Saturday, so it's extremely serious. I have to say, though, I'm a bit shocked and disturbed by Minister Kenny refusing to consider these people as being involved in the death of Corporal Doiron being a combat death. They are in the combat zone, and I'm not going to get into an argument whether it's 200 meters from the front line or whatever. We were told today.
You're just talking about how he's qualifying the incident.
He's qualifying. He's refusing to say it's a combat death. When we had 4 Canadian soldiers killed in 2002 in Kandahar by an American jet bomb, they were their first combat deaths, so-called, since Korea. Refusing to call them that, I think, is an insult to the activity and the work that's being done. On the other hand, you know, what are we doing in that particular location? 4 Canadian soldiers who are supposedly aiding and assisting and acting in concert with the Peshmerga, and they don't know who they are, where they are, and that they seem to be traveling by themselves, because no one was able to say, well, yeah, we're Peshmerga too. So, like, what is going on there, and what instructions do they really have? This is at night. We're talking about a nighttime operation, so it sounds more like an operation than it does an aid and assist or training mission. And that belies what we were told and promised from the very beginning.
Okay, Joyce Murray, the things that concern you here about, you know, how upfront the government is being about the mission, or how much information we're getting?
Well, Rosemary, we do have 2 stories. We have the Canadian minister saying one thing and the Peshmerga saying another, and so it's a good thing that the minister has said that there will be an investigation. Yeah. We would like the terms of reference for that to be public, and of course we would like the report to be public. And it's too early to, without that information, I think it's too early to be drawing conclusions. In fact, this is very recent, and so I think it's not appropriate to be taking political shots at this time. Both of my colleagues expressed the condolences to the family, and I want to add to that, but I would like to add, as well as that, this is very rattling to all of the armed force members at Petawawa base, where Sergeant Dyron was from. It's rattling to military members and families right across the country, and I think it's still a time to focus on their
okay, but so you don't have concerns in terms of the nature of the operation that was unfolding? To you, this seems like what should have been happening.
Well, we don't actually know what happened, and so that's why the investigation needs to take its course, and we actually find out what happened.
Okay.
We did express concerns, though, when we found out that our troops were close combat advising at the front lines. When
but that's what this is it not?
Well, we expressed those concerns a month ago when that came out, when the Prime Minister had explicitly said it would not be close combat advising, and so had the General, and now we found out
I'll let
it
you
was.
respond, James Bezan, but I do want to get a clip of Tom Lawson in here about whether or not this casualty is going to have an impact on the extension of the mission, and I want you all to weigh in on whether it factors into your thinking. Here's what the CDS said.
The government has already indicated openly that it will not. This was a friendly fire incident. This was not combat, and that the strategic reasons for being there remain in place.
So does that mean an extension past April 7th is sort of a done deal? And to be fair, we don't have a lot of time to debate that because you aren't sitting an enormous amount of days between now and the end of and the beginning of April. So it has to happen soon.
As the Minister said in question period today, no decision has been made yet. The government is still considering all its options, and if the decision is to extend the mission, then we will for sure bring forward a motion in plenty of time to have a fulsome debate.
Does this factor in, though, to the decision?
Well,
in one way or another.
Of course, it's something that you're always going to consider. And we said right from the start that this was a low-risk mission, but it's not a no-risk mission. So we knew that there were some risks. And in this situation, as we've already alluded to, this was a death that was done by friendly fire. It was by one of the young Peshmerga that we were training, and unfortunately fired upon our own people because of mistaken identity. But back to Joyce's point about the investigations, there's 3 investigations taking place. And so and I think we should all wait till those investigations take place. But there is the coalition through their special operations task force will be doing their investigation. There's an investigation taking place under the Special Investigative Unit of the Canadian Armed Forces, led by the Provost Marshal, and the Special Operations Forces themselves are also doing their own investigation. Of course, the Kurds. So,
but would you want the conclusions of those kinds of investigations, Jack Harris, before we decide whether we're going to extend another 6 months to a year?
And we don't know how quickly some of these will be brought together, but I think we'll start we'll start seeing some of those details come forward, and that will provide us with an informed decision.
Jack Harris, your thoughts on the extension?
Here's the dilemma. I mean, we really don't know, as Joyce said, what exactly they were doing, but we know they were there at night. That we know that as if one of the people that we're training, as James said, is actually shooting on our people, well, you got to question exactly what is the nature of this training and how effective is it, and is this the role that we should be playing in the danger zone, in the combat zone?
Well, we know they were close to the front lines.
Obviously,
I think everyone agrees with that.
Obviously, they were. But we've got an assurance from the Prime Minister at the beginning of this mission that this wouldn't be happening, wouldn't be accompanying to the front line, and the only excuse for that or cover for that was General Lawson saying that the mission was evolving. Well, we're looking for an extension now. We've got the Minister of Foreign Affairs, former Minister of Defence, musing about us kind of like Afghanistan. What road are we going down here, and how much of an evolution are we going to see, and are we going to see that in a motion from this government? We don't trust them, frankly, because we so far we've seen this so-called mission creep to where we are now, and some suggestion that we may be evolving into another Afghanistan, and I don't think Canadians want to see that.
Joyce Murray, do you need more information before you agree to an extension?
This is clearly a new development. We want to understand what actually happened and be able to know more detail, and then we'll be discussing that in our party along with other elements of this mission. and we'll make our decision when we see what is being proposed in the motion by the government.
Just last question, when will we see a motion? Because you're off next week again, back in your constituencies, and you've got 14 days left to propose and go ahead with something. Like in the next 2 weeks? Is that fair to say?
I would expect that as the decision's made, we'll see it before the end of the month. And,
Before the end of the month, then you only have a couple of days to pass it, because it's April 7th that the mission ends.
These decisions haven't been made yet. Let Cabinet and those that are looking at the mission make the decisions before the motion's drafted and brought forward if the decision is to extend. And also, let's not forget why we're there and what Sergeant Dorion believed in. He believed in counterterrorism efforts. That's one of the things he actually put in his yearbook when he was graduating from high school. And so, this is about taking on the jihadist threat and ISIL and their death cult, and that we're there helping the Kurds and others protect innocent civilians from being subjected to gang rape, to slavery, to massacres and beheadings.
But the question Canadians are asking are at what cost? And what cost are we prepared to pay for that? That's what they're asking.
And that's what they're asking, but at the same time, Canadians also understand that the ISIL threat can come back right here at home, and we've seen it already.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. We're going to talk about this more, as you can all expect. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosemary.
Thanks for coming off the Hill. That was fun. James Bezan, Jack Harris, Joyce Murray. Thank you all.